Before we proceed to part 2 of our Albolaryo series, may I invite you to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video so that you will always be updated with our upcoming stories. Now let us begin. Albolaryo series, part 2, The Journey into the World of the Spirits. The seasons passed quickly in the quiet village by the sea. Amaro was no longer a child. He had grown into his teenage years, tall and lean like his father, with eyes that seemed older than his age. His face was calm, but behind his stillness lay a depth that unsettled those who looked too long. The people of the village had come to accept him, though fear still lingered in some hearts. After the test by Apolando, no one dared call him Aswang again, yet many kept their distance. It was not easy to live beside someone whom spirits seemed to follow. Some admired him, others whispered, but all knew one thing: Amaro was not ordinary. Lucio and Catalina did their best to give him a normal life. Lucio taught him to fish, to mend nets, to paddle against the current. Catalina continued to guide him in the ways of herbs and healing. But the boy's path was not his own anymore. Fate had tied him to something larger, and the signs grew stronger each year. It began with dreams. At first they were faint, flashes of rivers glowing silver under the moon, forests whispering like voices, mountains crowned with fire. Then they grew sharper, more vivid, as if he were truly walking in another world. One night he dreamed of standing on a wide plain of grass. The wind blew strong, carrying with it the cries of unseen creatures. In the distance, a figure stood clothed in white, holding a staff carved with symbols he did not know. The figure's face was hidden, but the voice was clear. "Amaro," it said, "the path awaits. Between the living and the unseen you will walk. But know this, every gift has its price." Amaro woke drenched in sweat. He could still feel the wind on his skin, still hear the voice in his ears. For nights afterward, the dream returned, always the same. When he told Catalina, she listened in silence, her brow furrowed. "The spirits are calling," she said softly. "They do not speak to those without purpose. You must be careful, Anak. Once you step onto their path, you cannot return." Lucio, overhearing, frowned deeply. "He is too young for this. Let him live like other boys. Dreams are just dreams." But Amaro knew they were more than that. One afternoon, while the sun was high and most villagers were resting, Amaro wandered near the edge of the forest. He often came here to gather herbs, but that day something felt different. The air was heavy, and the birds were silent. As he walked deeper, he heard a sound, like crying. It was faint, like a child weeping. He followed the sound until he reached a small clearing. There, sitting on a stone, was a little girl in a red dress. Her face was hidden in her hands as she sobbed. "Why are you here alone?" Amaro asked gently. The girl looked up. Her eyes were large, too large for her face, and her smile stretched wider than any humans should. Before Amaro could step back, she vanished, leaving only the sound of laughter that echoed among the trees. Amaro's heart pounded. He had heard stories of the enkanto, spirits that took the form of children to lure humans away. He whispered a prayer his mother had taught him, clutching the small crucifix he wore around his neck. When he returned home, Catalina saw the change in his face. "You saw them," she said. Amaro nodded. "They will test you," she warned. "They will see if you are strong enough or foolish enough to follow them. Never answer when they call your name. Never eat their food. And never forget who you are." That night, Amaro lay awake, realizing the world around him was wider and darker than he had ever imagined. As months passed, unusual things began to happen in the village. Crops failed, though the weather was fair. Fishermen returned empty-handed, nets torn as if by unseen claws. At night, shadows flitted across the rooftops. Chickens vanished from their coops. Goats cried in fear. The elders muttered about angry spirits. Others spoke of Aswang, growing bold again. The villagers turned to Amaro's family for help. "He is the one marked," they said. "He should know what to do." Lucio bristled. "He is still a boy." But the people were desperate. They brought offerings, bananas, rice, dried fish, and laid them at Lucio's doorstep, begging for Amaro's aid. Amaro felt the weight of their eyes on him, the burden of their hope. He was only 15, yet already the village looked to him for salvation. One evening, Apolando visited their home. The old man's hair was white as ash, his back bent with age, but his eyes were sharp. "Amaro," he said, "the balance between our world and the spirit world grows thin. You are chosen to walk between them. If you turn away, the village may suffer. If you accept, you must be ready to pay the price." "What price?" Amaro asked. Apolando shook his head. "That only the spirits can say." Apolando decided to prepare Amaro for his first journey into the world of the spirits. He told Lucio and Catalina, "The boy cannot be hidden from his fate. Better he faces it with guidance than stumble into it blind." Though Lucio protested, Catalina knew it was true. So one night, under the full moon, they led Amaro to a clearing deep in the forest. Apolando built a small fire and burned herbs whose smoke curled into strange shapes. He painted white marks on Amaro's forehead and chest, murmuring old prayers that had been passed down from elders long forgotten. "You must sit here until the fire dies," Apolando instructed. "Do not move, no matter what you see. Do not speak, no matter what you hear. If the spirits call your name, remain silent. If they show you wonders, remain humble. If they show you horrors, remain steadfast. Only then will you be ready." Amaro sat cross-legged before the fire, his heart pounding. The smoke thickened, stinging his eyes. The forest grew eerily quiet. Then he saw them. Figures moved in the smoke, shapes of men and women, some with faces, others with none. They circled him, whispering in voices he could not understand. He felt cold hands brush against his skin, heard his name called in tones sweet and terrifying. "Amaro, come with us. Your power is ours." His body trembled, but he clenched his jaw. He remembered Catalina's warning. Never answer when they call your name. The fire crackled, dimming slowly. The whispers grew louder, the shapes pressing closer. One leaned down, its face inches from his own, eyes like black pools. "Amaro," it hissed. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer, gripping the crucifix around his neck. When he opened them again, the fire had burned down to ash. The shapes were gone. The forest was silent. Apolando stepped forward, relief in his face. "You did not falter. You are ready." But Amaro, though he had passed, felt no triumph. Instead, he felt the weight of the unseen world pressing heavier than ever. Days after the vision quest, Amaro began to see things even in waking hours. Shadows that slipped between trees, lights that hovered over the fields, voices that whispered at the edge of hearing. He knew the spirits were near, watching. One afternoon, he fetched water from the river. As he leaned down, he saw not his own reflection, but a stranger's face staring back, pale, hollow-eyed, lips curled into a smile. Startled, he stepped back, spilling the water. When he looked again, only his own reflection remained. That night, he dreamed of the river again, but this time it was dark, flowing thick like ink. From it rose hands, many hands, grasping, pulling, reaching toward him. He awoke gasping, sweat pouring down his face. Catalina rushed to him. "What did you see?" Amaro told her, and she grew pale. "The spirits are showing you the river between life and death. It means your journey is beginning." Lucio held his son's shoulders firmly. "Remember, Amaro, whatever you face, you are still human. Do not let them take that from you." Amaro nodded, but deep in his heart, he knew the line between human and spirit was already blurring. The days after the vision quest weighed heavily on Amaro. He was only 15, yet his shoulders carried burdens most grown men would fear to hold. The villagers looked at him with a mix of hope and unease, as though he were both shield and curse. Children peeked at him from behind their mothers' skirts, and elders lowered their voices when he passed. Amaro tried to live as any boy would. He helped Lucio repair nets, fetched water for Catalina, and joined in the planting of rice. But his nights were never free of whispers. Dreams tugged at him, pulling him into landscapes both wondrous and terrifying. One evening, as the sun dipped and the sky turned purple, Amaro felt drawn toward the forest. Lucio had warned him never to wander after dark, but something in the air pressed against his chest, urging him onward. He carried only a small lamp and the crucifix around his neck. The forest loomed silent, shadows stretching long. As he walked, he noticed the trees seemed closer than usual, their branches bending as if to block his path. Still, he pressed on. After what felt like hours, he reached a clearing. In the center stood a large balete tree, its roots twisted like the limbs of giants. Fireflies hovered around it, glowing brighter than any he had seen before. The air was thick with the scent of earth and something sweet, like flowers blooming at night. Then he heard it. Music. A soft melody played on bamboo flutes and drums. It came from behind the balete. Amaro stepped closer, his heart beating fast. There, under the tree, sat figures dressed in white. Their skin glowed faintly, their eyes bright as stars. They played music, their voices humming in harmony. One of them, a woman with long black hair, smiled at Amaro. "Come," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "Sit with us. You belong here." Amaro hesitated. He remembered his mother's warning. Never eat their food. Never answer when they call your name. "I cannot," he whispered. The woman tilted her head, her smile fading. "Why resist? You are not like the others. You see us. You hear us. Come closer, Amaro. Sit, and we will show you wonders." The others laughed softly, their voices like a river. They held out fruits shining like gold, water clear as crystal. Amaro clutched his crucifix. No. At once the music stopped. The glow around them dimmed. The woman's face twisted, her eyes darkening. "Then you are not ready," she hissed. The figures vanished, leaving only the empty clearing and the old balete tree. The lamp flickered in Amaro's hand. He stumbled back, his body trembling. When he returned home, Catalina saw his pale face and knew. "The encanto have shown themselves to you," she said. "They will keep trying. You must be strong, Anak. They desire what shines within you." Lucio listened, silent and grim. He sharpened his bolo that night, though no enemy of flesh had appeared. A week later, while helping Lucio by the shore, Amaro noticed a man sitting on a rock. The stranger's clothes were strange, too fine for a fisherman, too clean for someone who lived in the village. He had sharp features and eyes that gleamed like wet stones. Lucio frowned. "I have never seen him before." The man smiled warmly. "Good evening. I come from the next island. I heard of the boy who carries power." He looked directly at Amaro. "Is it true?" Amaro felt uneasy. The man's gaze was heavy, as though weighing him. Lucio stepped protectively in front of his son. "He is just a boy." The stranger chuckled. "A boy, yes, but one with destiny. Be careful, fishermen. Not all who are born with gifts can control them. Some gifts consume." With that, the man rose and walked away along the shore. When Lucio turned to watch, the figure was gone, though there had been no boat to take him. That night, Lucio could not sleep. He sat by the doorway with his bolo across his knees, watching the shadows. Soon after, Apolando returned. His face was grave. "The spirits grow restless. The boy must face them in their own world. If he does not, they will come to us, and we cannot hold them back." Lucio protested, but Catalina touched his arm. "We cannot hide him forever." So one moonless night, Apolando led Amaro back to the clearing of the balete tree. This time, they brought no lamp, only fire and prayers. Apolando sprinkled salt on the ground, burned incense, and murmured chants older than the village itself. "Sit, Amaro," he instructed. "Close your eyes. When you open them again, you will not see the forest of men. You will see theirs. Walk carefully, do not linger, and above all, remember who you are." Amaro sat, his heart pounding. The smoke swirled around him, thick and sweet. His eyelids grew heavy. When he opened his eyes, the world had changed. The balete tree towered larger than before, its roots stretching endlessly. The sky above was not black, but deep violet, filled with strange stars. The air shimmered, alive with whispers. Figures moved among the trees, some human-like, others twisted with horns and tails. Lights floated like lanterns, leading paths deeper into the forest. The music returned, faint and haunting. Amaro rose slowly. His body felt lighter, yet every step echoed like a drumbeat. He realized he had crossed into the spirit world. As he walked, shapes followed him. Tall, thin beings with blank faces. Small, laughing creatures with sharp teeth. He ignored them, clutching his crucifix, murmuring prayers. Then, ahead, he saw a river. Its water glowed faintly, flowing like liquid glass. On the other side stood the same figure from his dreams, the one clothed in white, holding a staff. "You came," the figure said, voice calm. "Who are you?" Amaro asked. "I am a guide," the figure replied, "neither friend nor foe. You stand between two worlds, Amaro. One foot in the land of men, the other in ours. Few can do this. Fewer still survive it. Why me? Because the balance must be kept. Darkness rises, and only those marked by both worlds can stand against it." Amaro felt a chill. "What if I refuse?" The figure's eyes darkened. "Then the darkness will claim not only you, but all who depend on you." The river rippled. From its depths, shapes writhed, hands, faces, mouths crying out. Amaro stepped back, but the figure raised a hand. "Do not fear. The river only shows what is at stake." Suddenly, a shadow burst from the water, lunging at Amaro. He fell back, raising his crucifix. The shadow hissed and dissolved, smoke curling into the air. "You see?" the figure said. "You already hold the strength. But strength without wisdom is nothing. You must learn. This is only the beginning." The figure lifted its staff. A beam of light struck Amaro's chest, burning yet not harming. He gasped, feeling warmth flood through him. When he blinked, he was back in the clearing. The fire was ash. Apolando watched him closely. "You crossed," the elder said softly. "And you returned." Amaro nodded, his body trembling. "I saw them. I spoke to one." Apolando's eyes were heavy with meaning. "Then your journey has begun." The days after his first crossing were difficult. Amaro felt drained, as though part of him had not returned. Sometimes he would stare into space, hearing voices no one else heard. At night he woke suddenly, gasping. The image of the river burned into his mind. Catalina worried, tending to him with teas and prayers. Lucio grew restless, pacing like a caged animal. "He is too young," Lucio muttered. "Too young to carry such weight." But Amaro himself said little. He knew now that his life was no longer just his own. The weeks after Amaro's first crossing were uneasy. The village seemed quieter, but not with peace. Rather with the silence that comes before a storm. Farmers complained that their carabaos grew restless at night. Fishermen swore they heard wailing over the water. Women whispered of shadows moving outside their homes, watching, waiting. And in the middle of it all stood Amaro. No longer just a boy, but not yet a man. The crossing had changed him. His eyes seemed deeper, his voice steadier. When he walked, even the bravest villagers stepped aside. It began with a sickness. One by one, children in the village fell ill. Their bodies burned with fever, yet their skin was pale and cold. They refused to eat, their eyes dull as though looking at something far away. No herb, no prayer, no remedy seemed to help. Catalina tried everything she knew, ginger teas, coconut oil, guava compresses, but nothing eased the illness. Parents wept, clutching their children, begging for mercy. "They are being drained," Apolando muttered, watching one boy twitch in his sleep. "This is no ordinary sickness. Something feeds on them." At once the villagers' eyes turned to Amaro, some with hope, others with fear. "You must do something," they pleaded. Lucio bristled, but Amaro stepped forward. "If this is the work of the dark, then I will face it." Catalina tied a red cloth around his waist, a protection against spirits. She handed him a pouch of salt and garlic. Lucio gave him his old bolo, its handle worn smooth by years of use. "Remember," Lucio said, gripping his shoulder, "this blade is only as strong as the hand that wields it. Do not fear them. Fear weakens the arm." Amaro nodded. Guided by Apolando, he walked to the edge of the forest where the sickness seemed to linger strongest. The moon was hidden, the sky heavy with clouds. The air smelled of rot. As they entered the trees, the wind grew colder. Shadows flitted between branches. Strange cries echoed in the distance, half animal, half human. "They know we are here," Albolaryo whispered. "Be ready. The first battle." Suddenly, the forest erupted with noise. From the shadows burst a creature, gaunt and twisted, its skin gray, its eyes glowing red, its mouth stretched wide, revealing fangs dripping with saliva. An Aswang. It lunged at Amaro with frightening speed. Amaro raised his bolo just in time, the blade catching the creature's claws. Sparks flew as metal met natural strength. The Aswang hissed, its tongue whipping like a snake. Amaro stumbled back, but he remembered his mother's words, "Never forget who you are." He tightened his grip and whispered a prayer. The creature struck again. This time, Amaro slashed its arm. Black blood sprayed, hissing as it touched the ground. The Aswang shrieked, its cry echoing through the forest. But more shapes appeared in the darkness. 2, 3, 4. Red eyes blinked between the trees. Albolaryo began chanting, his voice steady, his hands scattering salt into the air. The creatures snarled, circling. Amaro's heart pounded. He was outnumbered, yet something inside him surged, an energy that burned like fire. He raised his bolo, but his other hand glowed faintly, as if light pulsed beneath his skin. When the next Aswang leapt, Amaro thrust his glowing hand forward. The creature froze midair, shrieking, before crumbling into ash. Albolaryo's eyes widened. "The spirits have given you fire!" The remaining Aswangs snarled, but now they hesitated. Amaro stepped forward, bolo in one hand, light in the other. His voice rang through the trees, calm yet commanding. "Leave this place," he said, "or be destroyed." The creatures hissed, retreating slowly into the shadows. One lingered, its eyes burning with hatred, before vanishing. The forest grew silent again. When they returned to the village, the children's fevers broke. One by one, they stirred awake, their strength slowly returning. Parents cried with relief, thanking Amaro, calling him protector. But Amaro felt no triumph. He only felt the weight of what had begun. Albolaryo spoke before the gathered villagers. "You have seen it. The boy is no ordinary child. He is marked by the spirits. He carries both light and blade. He will be the one to stand against the darkness." The people bowed their heads, some in reverence, others in fear. That night, Lucio sat by the fire, staring into the flames. "My son," he said softly, "you are no longer mine alone. You belong to something greater. But remember, you are still flesh and blood. Do not lose yourself in the shadows." Catalina kissed Amaro's forehead. "You were born with light, Anak. Tonight it has shown itself. But the journey is long, and the darkness will not stop." Amaro listened, silent. He looked at his hands, the calloused hand that held the bolo, and the glowing hand that had destroyed the Aswang. He felt the weight of both. Acceptance. The next morning, as the sun rose over the sea, Amaro stood on the shore. The waves crashed gently, the wind carrying the smell of salt. For the first time, he felt the path ahead not just as burden, but as calling. He whispered to the wind, "If this is my fate, I will not run from it." The waves seemed to answer, rolling steady against the sand. Behind him, the village stirred to life, roosters crowing, children laughing, men setting out to fish. Life went on, but nothing would ever be the same again. Amaro had faced the unseen and survived. He had stood between darkness and his people, and he had chosen his path. The boy was gone. In his place stood the beginning of an Albolaryo. And the journey into the world of the spirits had only just begun.